Uh, we're going back to Jeremiah 18, and our hope is to encourage you this morning. I know Jeremiah has a lot of correction in it. The Most High's being intimate, and he's having a real conversation with Jeremiah and his people. And, as has been stated, and not in a way of trying to find fault, but I'm just realizing that we've been given one side of God's love. See, correction is part of his love as well. And sometimes the correction is not pleasant, but it's needful. Now, none of us like getting a whipping. None of us do. Some of us have retained enough innocence that he can guide us with his eye. Some of you, he can guide with his eye. But then there are some of us that correction is needed. And while he is no respecter of person, whatever form of correction he chooses is appropriate, even when it doesn't feel like it. Give an ear to this, and then I'll make a few side notes. Jeremiah 18, it says, "This word came to Jeremiah from Yahweh. Get up and go down to the potter's house. There I will tell you more." So then Jeremiah says, "So I went down to the house of the potter, and there he was, working at the wheels. Whenever a pot he made came out imperfect, the potter took the clay and made another pot with it in whatever shape suited him." And the him here is the potter. Stay with me now. "Then the word of Yah came to me, house of Israel." That's us. This is Yah speaking now. He says, "House of Israel, can't I deal with you as the potter deals with his clay?" Says Yah, "Look, you house of Israel are the same in my hand as the clay in the potter's hand." And right now, for a lot of us with, and again, I'm not making this political, there's a lot of uncovering going on, and some people are uncomfortable with what might be discovered, and some are not. Some are thinking that everything that's coming down the pike is all bad, but we're coming to that conclusion because we feel a certain way about a certain person or a certain people. And Again, it may not all be bad.
Okay. All right.
But how that's determined, once again, is how we've been living. How we've been living. I said we. How we've been living. Let me read a little further. He says, this is Yah again. He says, at one time I may speak about uprooting, breaking down, and destroying a nation or kingdom. But, and here's the good part, but if that nation turns from their evil, which prompted me to speak against it, see, we don't hear in most places of worship that sometimes we frustrate the Most High. We don't hear that. In fact, some people might think, man, this guy, he's teaching heresy. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just reading out of this particular translation. I'm not making it up. We do frustrate him from time to time, and mostly it's because, and not because I say so, but if each one of us would be honest and look at our own lives, when we decide we're going to live a life of sacrifice rather than live a life of obedience, here comes the whipping. Pick any instance in your life and you think back. When the hammer came down, were you living a life of obedience, or were you living a life of sacrifice where you're trying to fix it? Now, I'm not saying that you're not contrite about the bad decision we made. I'm not saying that. And I'm not judging in that instance. I'm saying we frustrate him when we don't obey. When we do it our way. And again, I mean, surely, as wonderful as we think we are from time to time, and it's true, yes, we could be considered at times the apple of his eye. But sometimes he gets a little miffed with us. And like I said, some of us, he can get us back on track merely by looking at us. You. Because I'm not one of those. I wish I were, but I'm not. I'm one of the others. A little hard-headed, a little stiff-necked. But becoming more and more and more realistic as he reveals more of me about me, to me. And every one of you seated here have the same opportunity. Even in families, some did what their parents said. Most of us, when we got around to it, we would do what they said, but sometimes we wouldn't do it when they said do it. And in some households, there was a response if you didn't do it in a timely manner. And nowadays, I guess we leave everything up to the individual. Now, stay with me. He says, but if that nation turns from their evil, which prompted me to speak against it, then I relent concerning the disaster I had planned to inflict on it. So once again, not talking about just the United States. Think about it. Every country got problems. Now, one thing I think we all can agree, the Most High don't lie. The Most High don't lie. And here, I just read to you, he says, listen, if we turn away from the evil, I will relent. In other words, Barry, instead of that 2x4, I might pick a thin bolo bat. It still hurt, because if you get smacked with that thing, it still sting, but getting hit with a 2x4, that really hurts. You see stars. And then sometimes, saints, and we've done this with our parents, when we get corrected, we'll say, it didn't call for all of that. Well, that's what we think. We'll say, I only did. And I'm saying, saints, sometimes we're the same way with the Most High. But golly, I just thought about doing it. I didn't do it. And then he reminds you of the word. He says, hey, so as a man thinketh, so as is he. If you thought about it, you rascal, you guilty of it. So then again, showing you how these hard-headed guys can be, myself included. Well, if I'm going to be charged for it just for thinking about it, I might as well carry the act out. Which changes that bolo bat back to a 2x4. You see, what I'm dealing with our good inclination, our evil inclination, and being obedient to what he say, instead of pontificating. Because a lot of us, we think we pretty brainy. And we don't understand that sometimes being like that, that's an offense to him. How dare you put your Torah over his Torah? Who in Sam Hill do you think you are? Well, I never looked at it that way. Well, look at it that way. Because that's the way it looks like he looks at it that way. Let me read a little further. Mike, make sure you bring her back. He says, at one time I may speak about uprooting, breaking down, and destroying a nation or kingdom. But if that nation turns from their evil, which prompted me to speak against it. Now, really, if he just loved us 24/7 and we so wonderful and we the apple of his eye, why would he be prompted to speak rough stuff to us? See, sometimes he grabs us in our collar. See, but we weren't taught that. We were taught, he said, everything's so nice. Oh, now, Barry, don't do that again. Yeah, that's one aspect of him, but he has another aspect. Son, you do that again, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. Yes, you can be forgiven, but you planted a seed, you're going to reap a harvest. We can't plant bad seeds and then pray for, oh, Lord, kill the seed. Don't let it rain. It's going to rain. It's going to come up. That's why it's so important we make the right decisions. And see, what prompts a lot of us living a life of sacrifice is because we trying to fix the bad decisions we made. And again, I'm not saying this. I don't know beans about your life. I'm speaking about my own. He said, then I relent concerning the disaster I had planned to inflict on it. See, sometimes I was talking with a brother earlier this week, and I said, man, I thank him for his mercy, because I believe, as far as my life, there have been times I was so hard-headed and so stiff-necked, he said, if I look at this boy, I'm going to have to take him out. So his love, he kind of turns his head. I'm not saying he condones my sin. He's saying because he's so holy, because he's so righteous, Barry, if I look on you now, I'm taking you out of here. And guess what? It's the same way with you. We do frustrate him at times. Remember now, on that potter's wheel, I didn't say that when the potter didn't like the way that whatever it was turned out, it didn't say he threw it away in the utter darkness. It said he just kind of started all over again. Put a little water, started remolding it, reshaping it. And sometimes the molding and the shaping, it do hurt a little bit. I'm trying half-heartedly. I'm trying to stop drinking so much soda. I'm trying half-heartedly. Now, at the age I am now, I really need to be more serious about it, because as we all know, as we get older, the stuff you could eat in your 20s, eat and drink, But I was telling this guy, because around here I've been drinking water, and he's trying to encourage me. And I was like, oh boy. And I told him, I said, look, man, I ain't having no fun. But the water's good for me. So why am I trying to live a life of sacrifice when I say, well, okay, let's work something out here? If I drink a soda, how many glasses of water I got to drink? See, here again, I'm trying to do it my way. I got friends and acquaintances right in here all the time, always getting on me about sugar. And they right. But my evil inclination, being on that wheel, sometimes it is uncomfortable. But the good thing is, I didn't say he threw the clay away. He just add a little more water, make it moist so that it's pliable, so he can work with it again. He's the same way with us. And sometimes he do addictions the same way. Sometimes he take it away, but sometimes he say, no, we're going to go through this journey together. Because see, a lot of us, we want to pray, and we think we just get zapped, and that's the end of it. We'd like it to be that way. How many of us, don't raise your hands, don't just look straight ahead. Maybe you got a little tipsy, a little too tipsy. Because one brother came to mind right now, and I'm not going to call him, but I know he don't even drink wine no more. And I think he might have had a bad experience. So he was like, I ain't going that way no more. See, now, when he asked for deliverance, he meant it. He said, if you get me out of this, I ain't coming back that way. But again, some of us, oh, you remember as a kid when you did something and your parents told you stop doing it, and then they caught you doing it again, and before they get to tell you, get that strap or get that switch, and you saying what? I ain't gonna do it no more. I ain't gonna do it no more. You know, now, while you still feeling those licks, right then and there, you ain't gonna do it no more. But 2 weeks go by. You know, and if you get with the right crowd or the wrong crowd, depending, you right back at it again. Stay on the wheel is what I'm saying. Stay on the wheel. I know, yes, it's uncomfortable. Right now for all of us, well, why they got to be checking on this and that? And I mean, they turn into all kind of stuff over. And then it makes it worse when you don't like the people that's doing the checking. But again, how you been living? Have you been playing the system? And again, I'm not asking you. We're thinking here. We're thinking. None of us want to be audited by the IRS. And so, again, this ain't political. I'm just saying. But if you did things correctly, you don't want to be audited, but you don't worry about it too much. But, for those that say, well, I just can't stand so and so and so and so. Well, he's trying to get rid of the IRS. Again, now, that may not mean anything to you, but again, how you living? If you've been cheating on your taxes, you glad he's trying to get rid of the IRS. See, again, he said, when you prompted me to speak disasters, that's part of this checking. Like I said, some people going to be uncomfortable. Some people still uncomfortable about the results of what happened. All of that's part of that disaster, maybe. So again, do we have an out? Yes. Repent. Repent. So that he'll say, all right, I see you. I see you. I see you. And see, we as believers, particularly those trying to live a life by his instructions, other folk are looking at you saying, I wonder how long they're going to walk that line. Because see, they've given up. And you'd be surprised, some of the main people giving you what for, some of them are really hoping, I hope they are for real. I hope it's not all just talk. And of course, we know, yes, his instructions, they're real. They're true. And they're good for rectifying and enlightening the soul. His instructions. A lot of people don't like the word law. Law is nothing more than his instructions. Sometimes he call them commandments. Sometimes he call them mitzvah. Sometimes he call them statutes. In other words, Barry, just do what I say do. Why is that so hard? And then for those that still got a problem with that, even Yeshua said, the things that I do, I don't do of myself. I do what the Father tell me to do. So for all the people that are Jesus freaks, and I'm not saying that disparagingly, I'm saying if he is the all in all that you proclaim, why aren't you mirroring what he did? He did what the Father said. He's the walking Torah. I don't know why there's such a problem with that. You can't get away with his instructions. You got to have them to live by. That's why he gave them to us. Can't make it any plainer than that. There is no debate. What did he say? Heaven and earth will pass away, but not one jot, not one tittle. None of my word gonna pass away. So who cares what your professor said? Again, wherever your source is where you're getting all this information, check the person, how they living.
All right. That's good.
It's a lot of brilliant idiots
Yeah.
and a lot of fake professionals. And some of that's going to come out. It's already started, really, but, we don't hear about that in the news. A lot of stuff is being uncovered. We got a lot of fraud going on, and it's not just in the government. Give an ear. We got hope because he's saying, Barry, if you do right, I'll change it because I got a 2x4. And I said, Father, I can't take much more of this. And so I would imagine he's saying, well, you keep talking about you can't take much more. Why are you still doing what I asked you not to do? Why are we so stubborn? And then he says, similarly, at another time, I may speak about building and planning a nation or kingdom. But if it behaves wickedly from my perspective, see, and that's the thing, we've lost this. See, we are so into what we think about something, what we feel about something. We forgot, what say Yah? Father, what do you say about this? But now people, so everybody want to get you can have a podcast and I'm not knocking those people because some people have learned how to make an honest living out of doing it, and that's fine. But see, now everybody want to give their opinion about everything. People, and the new statement, let me speak my truth. And to keep from using profanity, I just say peanut butter. That's about what your truth matters. Think about his perspective. What does he say about a matter? See, that's what we're supposed to be living by. Not some fluky, vain philosophy you done come up with. Just because somebody used 50-cent words. Like I said, a lot of things are going to be uncovered. A lot of people that have received all kind of awards, gonna find out some of them are fraud, are fake, are phony. Got your money and gone. Don't ever trade what man say for what Yah say. I don't care who it is, myself included. Please don't do that, folks. Some of us are so impressed so easily. Folks, learn to look behind the curtain. He says, similarly, at another time, I may speak about building and planning a nation or kingdom. But if it behaves wickedly from my perspective and doesn't listen to what I say, what he say, again, not what your preacher say, not what your favorite, I don't know if they call them televangelists no more, not what that person say, I almost said something. Stick with the Most High. When he says something about himself, you can take that. I don't care how many commentaries they've written. I don't care how many books they've written. New York, I'm going to share something with y'all about these New York bestseller something. It ain't as prestigious as you think. Now, I'm not knocking somebody that's written a book. small-minded people think that. So if the shoe fit, there's a little trick to that thing. I can become a New York bestseller, and I ain't wrote a book. But that really is another lesson in another day. And again, I am not talking against authors. I'm not. But it's part of the system, just like the education and everything else. It's part of a system, and it's all designed to get in your pocket. And I'm not against education. But I would not put education over Torah. You making a terrible mistake with that. And like I said, I don't care how long. I don't care if he got tenure. Your professor didn't birth you. Oh boy. It's a lot of mixed up people in positions of authority. And they are steadily perverting the minds of the young. And it's shameful. It is shameful. Again, check how they living. Look behind the curtain. And make sure they ain't coming in your back door. Similarly, at another time, I may speak about building and planning a nation or kingdom. But if it behaves wickedly from my perspective and doesn't listen to what I say, then I change my mind and don't do the good I said I would do. That would have helped it. I didn't make that up. Those of you that have that particular translation, read it for yourself. Even in King James, between all of these and thous, you can still get that. But again, if you want to stop the bad stuff from happening to you, live a life of obedience. If you want the good stuff that he promised you, because that's mostly what we get Sabbaths and the Sabbath after the Sabbath. Come to my place. Put a X amount in the plate, and I'll tell you all of that you're going to get. And there's more to it than that. But we got to be obedient, man. We got to be obedient. We got to stop coming up with these programs and just be obedient. Do what he say. Do it his way. And here's the other part. And in his order. I don't care what society says. Society can kick rocks. Society is why we getting what we getting. He said he changed his mind. Who was that? Tyrone Davis. Can I change my mind or something? Didn't he write that song? I'm glad somebody was honest. Thank you, brother. See, a lot of people want to act like they ain't, you know. Some of them know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But see, the Most High said, listen. We heard earlier this morning, he said, listen, hey, I'm happy with you. Keep coming. But see, if we keep coming, but we coming with our stuff, he gonna change his mind. That's why sometimes you'll hear me say, Father, please don't disqualify us. When he changed his mind about doing something good for you, actually, think about it. That's a type of disqualification. I don't want him to tell me, Barry, get on the bench. You done missed 5 shots in a row. Lord, let me take one more. No, sit down on the bench. Well, sometimes he might have to, Barry, sit down. He's the same way with us. See, that's the kind of relationship you really want with. You want somebody, and he's the only entity that's going to tell you the truth. Well, most of us endeavor to be honest with the people we truly love. But I don't know where we stand with the people we just like. I mean, listen, there's something to that statement. See, when you really love somebody, now you're going to be careful when you give them the truth. If you really love them, you're going to be careful how you give them the truth. You don't take that as an opportunity to be brutally honest. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So if you got a real friend, you know, I'm not even talking about marriages. I'm talking about just a real friend. How honest can you be with that real friend? Or are they just somebody that y'all just happen to just like each other? Because the people that you like, you always want to say what you think keeps the like factor high. But see, when you live by Torah, you tell them the truth. You tell them the truth whether you just like them, and you tell them the truth if you love them. But if you live in a life of sacrifice, you always, well, now I got to consider, well, who is it? Well, he and I, we just play golf together. We go to the ball game together. Then he say, oh, well, this guy, man, shoot. 2 o'clock in the morning, dude came and got me. Or you in a situation and you call your golfing buddy, he can't make it. You call your sports buddy, he can't make it. But then you call another guy, hey man, where you at? I'll be there. I'm on the way. Not 101. Well, let me do this. Go do. We talked about last night when Yeshua said we were talking about the 12, but we brought up the fact that there were more than 12 that he asked. He said, hey, come follow me. And one cat said, well, you know, I would, but I got to go bury my dad. See, would a real friend do that? And later on, what he said, let the dead bury the dead. See, I'm talking real friend. Real friend. Now, again, nothing wrong with fair weather friends. That's not an indictment on them. I mean, because really, you want to show yourself friendly anyway. Now, you can't do for everybody. You can't even do for everybody in here, even if you wanted to. At one time, I may speak about uprooting, breaking down, and destroying a nation or a kingdom. But if that nation turns from their evil, we call that what? Teshuvah, which is a military term, which means about face. If I'm going to Sally Mae house, I need to carry my rusty butt on home. Make that right turn and keep going. Get on 95. But again, if I'm stiff-necked, I'm going on over Sally Mae house. I can repent later. oh, oh, people don't do that? I may look like Boo Boo the Fool. I mean, I'm being real. I'm being real. And see, really, when you think about it, what kind of repentance is that? You know, really, what kind of repentance is that? So now I'm there, oh Lord, well, okay, yeah, I know. Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna give a big offering. Living a life of sacrifice. And as much as I'm a friend of money, if I was smart, I'd have carried my rusty butt on home and kept my big offering. That might be too real for some folk. But see, I'm telling you, the person that is obedient, that's who the society is going to be looking for. That's why your phone going to ring. Because see, people been watching you that you don't even know watching you. And they say, man, I'm getting ready to make a big decision in my life. You got 15 minutes. And you say, huh? What? Well, yeah, bro. I got 15 minutes. Because things are kind of topsy-turvy right now. And people are looking for somebody that's real. Now, again, let me say this too. I'm not saying that I'm still not going to stumble. But we stand a better chance when our heart's desire is to be obedient. Not, well, let me get my sin meter out. If I take $5 from Michael, that's bad, because I could have asked him for it. But if I take $5 from Michael, I steal it from him because he ain't going to just let me take it. And I go, well, you know, it was only $5. It's still stealing. See, we trying to quantify. See, but when you start thinking that way, you're going right back into living a life of sacrifice. And guess what? You're substituting his Torah for your Torah. I said that wrong. I'm substituting his Torah for my Torah. Because I'm the one who stole the $5. And then we even go even further, especially those that read the King James backwards and forwards. Well, didn't the Bible say a righteous man falls 7 times 70? Yes, it did. But that's not a passage for you to fall 7 times 70. See, even in reading, even in studying, we need to start looking at this thing not so much as a story, but look at it that what he's saying to you is, Barry, if you do this, this is what's going to happen to you. Because I don't love David, even though he said David was a man after his own heart. And we know David made a few mistakes. And see, a lot of us, particularly the males, we always want to point to David. But David had, read Psalms. Read Psalms. David did have a heart for the Most High, even though he lived life like we live life. But I tell you, man, society gonna need some real people. Some real people, and they're gonna need people that can do more than just talk a good game, but living the real game, which is living a life of obedience. That's what's gonna draw them to you. I'm telling you. And again, please, I'm not always talking about a financial situation. Some people really want to sit down and get wise counsel pertaining to something in their life. Everything ain't always about, well, can you let me hold? Can you? It's not always that. Some people might be thinking of switching careers or something. I don't know. It's a whole lot of other stuff. Everything ain't predicated on money. But we need to be in place. Well, how am I going to know I'm in place? Well, when you're in the grocery store, you don't know who you're going to run into. You coming out the restaurant, belly all full. And I ain't knocking it. I like a good meal myself. Of course, some of my pants I can't get in no more, but that's all right. We just never know when we're going to be approached. And yet we say, hey, talk to me, lead me, guide me. Wasn't that song? Lead me, guide me along the way. Lord, if you leave me. See? But you got to mean that. When I was listening to John pray this morning, I said, that's a good old Baptist boy. I said, bless him, Lord. I'm not making a joke. That touched me when I heard his heart. See, that's what we got. Folks, this thing is more serious. Somebody again brought that up. The matter is a little more serious than just playing church. I'm telling you. We need more of us and less of society. I'm going to say that again. We need more of us and less of society. And I'm not talking about wiping nobody out. But somebody's got to do something to turn the heart of Yah. Because he said, he might be saying, Petersburg, I'm going to get you. Be hot. My children down there, and others too, but I'm going to just use us. They down there. They stumble, they fall, but they keep coming. So I'm going to stay that execution. I'm going to stay that disaster that I had coming for them. Not just cities, nations. See, if enough people that are called by his name, see, it's up to us. I know that song is up to you, New York, but it's up to us, folks. It's literally up to us. We can stem the tide. But we got to do it, and we got to do it in earnest. I don't know how much other material some of you read, but I've got a lot of material where it talks about the discourse, which is why I like reading about what his appointed prophets shared or what he had shared, because there was a lot of discourse. There was a lot of discourse, a lot of communication. Even the Most High said, come, let us reason together. There's a verse in Jeremiah where the Most High told Jeremiah, he said, even if Moses asked me, I'm not gonna bless those people. They irritated him to that degree. And so again, for those of you that have children, grandchildren, siblings and parents or whatever, stay on your face on their behalf. Stay on your face on their behalf. Your prayers count to him. He considers it. He considers it. I mean, man, when I begin to see that, he's saying, listen, if he's saying, America, if you do right, I'm going to do right by you. But if you ain't going to act right, I'm going to do. Listen, he told that to Jeremiah. Jeremiah was like, well, you know, they done dogged me out and people done threatened to kill me. And again, you don't hear this much in a lot of places. But basically, and I'm paraphrasing, he told him, if you don't say what I tell you to say, what I got in store for them, you getting some of it too. See, but we think, oh, God don't talk like that. Yes, he does. He's God. He can talk how he jolly well please. You know, he don't just do all good things. Even he said himself, if everything is good, how you gonna act when things are to the contrary? He said that. Again, I'm God. I wound, I heal, I kill, I make alive. He's telling you who he is. But we don't, no. You just bless all day long. And if I make a mistake, but see, I'm not mad at us. I'm mad at the people that was teaching that stuff. Because they weren't doing us. Some of them did it out of ignorance, and I don't mean I'm calling them dumb and stupid. They didn't know any better. They were teaching what they were taught. But some people taught us that on purpose to give us a distorted view. In fact, we didn't even know the people we were reading about was us. If that don't open your eyes, I don't know what will. He says, back in 7, he said, House of Israel, can I deal with you as the potter deals with his clay? In other words, you know, he's saying, okay, Barry, yeah, you're having a rough time. And boy, you sure cry ugly. But that's all right. That's about the only time. But even in the uncomfortableness, and I've told you before, I told you all, I admit it. I said, I'm one of the biggest whiners I know. But even in the discomfort, I realized, I said, well, you know, if he didn't love me, he wouldn't correct me. And that's when I know I still got a shot. I got a shot. I don't want to be disqualified. You know, I don't want him saying, I'll get somebody else. Because he can. Which one of them, was it Jonah? Said, well, I ain't saying no more. And he said, like you the only one I got. Again, he didn't say it the way I'm saying it, but that's the gist of it. Man, don't you ever think you to catch me out where he's concerned. He got 1 million of you. Yes. You're extremely attractive. You're extremely handsome. He made more than one. So why do we get puffed up about something that really we had nothing to do with? You need to thank your parents. And you know, and earlier, even sometimes, I'm telling you, even when he's administering the correction, it's as if he's crying himself, because in an earlier passage, it said it's like rivers running out of his face. See, so he don't want to do it, but he's bound by who he is. And so sometimes when he looks away from me, I'm like, thank you. Because that righteousness, light and dark can't stand. And so sometimes, I remember a long time ago, my mom was saying, you don't want him to get up. And then sometimes when he got to correct, he sit on the mercy seat. In Jeremiah, again, there's a passage where the people wanted the people wanted the Most High to go with them. And he told the prophet, I'm not going with them, because they had frustrated him to that degree. He said, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to send a messenger to go before them. But tell the people, he told the prophet, tell those people, if they don't obey, he is not going to have compassion on them. That angel or that messenger only knows how to carry out his order to the T. So when you get out of line with one of them, that's it. They're not going to look away. They're not going, oh, you're just so precious. Remember when he was going to make man, some of the heavenly hosts said, why you going to make them? They just going to make a mess of stuff. Some of the stuff made me laugh. I see it, Red. I was reading in some literature and was talking about even when Moses, you know, because they, you know, when Moses went up to get the 10 Commandments or whatever, they said one time he was actually in the throne room, and some of the heavenly hosts, basically, they were complaining, like, what is he doing here? And of course, Moses, being a mere mortal man, he was afraid. And the Most High told him to hold on to the altar. And when he held on to the altar, he started talking junk to them hosts. Why am I sharing this? Because a lot of times we think we like to delve in realms. And I keep telling you, in realms there may be different laws. So if you're a novice, remember you're a novice. Sometimes you might think you're ready for war. Be careful. Be careful. I'm not saying don't be willing to be a warrior for him. I'm not saying, no, you be whatever he wants you to be. But remember, there are laws in place throughout all creation. We can stem the tide. Believers can stem the tide with being sincere in their obedience to the instructions. And he said, if you do what I say, you'll have success. So instead of us saying how much we don't like somebody and we tired of this and we tired of that, let's get in our own kitchens. Start sweeping some stuff out. Let's go in some of those rooms, particularly the room for improvement. Let's get in that room in improvement and camp out in there for a little while. And start boxing up some stuff and take it on out. So that for the benefit of the country, things will change. God bless you. The doors of the church are open. Uh, I I think we're gonna dismiss because I think.